We don't think about our feet very often. They're the part of us that's furthest away, down there at the end of everything, quietly doing their job. We only really notice them when something feels off, when they're cold or tingling or slow to wake up in the morning. And most of the time we brush it away. We tell ourselves the house is chilly, or we sat in a strange position, or we're just getting older. I used to do exactly that. For years, I never gave my feet a second thought until one evening I did. And once I started paying attention, I noticed things I'd been quietly ignoring for a very long time. I want to walk through those things with you, not to worry you. I'm not here to do that, just to notice them together. Because our feet are often the first place the body speaks, and they tend to say it softly. And the first thing I noticed was the cold. And now, cold feet are normal. We all get them. But this was different. The room was warm, the heating was on, everyone else was comfortable, and my feet were still cold. That was the part that surprised me. It wasn't a cold house, it was a warm room and two cold feet inside it. And I realized something simple. If the room is warm and your feet still aren't, then the cold isn't coming from the room. And it's coming from how easily warmth is reaching them. And our feet are warmed by the blood that travels down to them. That's what carries heat to the edges of us. So when they stay cold in a warm room, it can be a quiet sign, a sign that the warmth is having a harder time arriving. That was the first signal I'd been ignoring. Not cold feet that shouldn't be cold. Then I noticed something about how long they stayed that way. I get into bed and my feet would be cold. That's normal too, but they used to warm up quickly. Within a few minutes, they'd be fine. And now they stayed cold much longer. Sometimes I'd fall asleep before they ever warmed at all. And that slowness was its own kind of message. It's not only whether the feet are cold, it's how long they take to come back. A foot that warms quickly is being reached easily. A foot that stays cold for a long time is waiting for warmth that's arriving slowly. I'd never thought about it that way before. The speed of warming was telling me something the cold alone couldn't. That was the second thing. The third thing I noticed was the tingling, that pins and needles feeling. The one you get when a foot falls asleep. We all know it. You sit a certain way, your foot goes numb, you shake it out, it comes back. But I started noticing it happening more easily from smaller things, just sitting for a while, crossing my legs for a few minutes, resting one foot under me on the couch. Things that never used to make a foot fall asleep were suddenly doing it. And that told me something too. A foot that goes numb easily is a foot where the flow is easily interrupted. And when circulation is strong, it takes a lot to cut it off. When it's already working harder, even a small pause can be enough. And so the tingling wasn't random, and it was showing me how little it took to slow things down. And that was the third signal. Then there was the color. This one is easy to miss because we rarely look. But one evening I did. I noticed my feet looked paler than I expected, a little washed out. And when I let them hang down off the edge of the bed, the color slowly came back. And when I lifted them up, it faded again. That small change is worth noticing. Color that fades when the feet lift and returns when they drop. It's the body quietly showing you gravity at work. When flow is easy, color stays even, whatever position you're in. When it's working harder, the feet lean on gravity for help. I found that strangely moving, actually. You can watch it happen. The body quietly asking for a little assistance. That was the fourth thing I'd never looked closely enough to see. Then I noticed something I almost laughed at because it had been true the whole time. It wasn't always both feet. One was often colder than the other or slower to warm. For a long time, I assumed feet came as a matched pair, that whatever one felt, the other felt too. But they don't always agree. And I learned that this unevenness can matter on its own. The body isn't always symmetrical in what it finds hard. So if one foot feels different from its partner, that difference is worth noticing. Not the same as the other foot isn't nothing. It's information. That was the fifth thing. And then there were two more slower ones, the kind you'd never catch in a single evening, only over weeks. The first was healing. I scraped my foot once, nothing serious, a small graze, and it took much longer to close than I expected, longer than a graze like that ever used to take. And when I thought about why, it followed the same quiet logic as everything else. Healing isn't free, it has to be delivered, and everything a small wound needs to close, the body carries there through the blood. And the feet are the last address on that route. So if the delivery is slower, the repair is slower too. A cut that lingers on the foot is the same story, told a different way. I could easily have blamed that on anything, but it belonged with the others. The last sign was the skin itself. The skin on my feet looked a little different than I remembered, smoother in a way that wasn't quite healthy, a little shinier. The hair on my toes, which I had honestly never once thought about, had quietly thinned. And the feet felt somehow further away than they used to, not numb, just less present, as if the cold floor reached them a little less sharply than before. Skin and feeling both live on what arrives through the blood. When less arrives, slowly, over a long time, they slowly show it. None of these were dramatic changes. They were the kind you only see if you look at your feet as though you haven't in years, which honestly, most of us haven't. And here's where it all came together for me. And I'd been treating these as separate quirks: cold that shouldn't be cold, warmth that arrives too slowly, feeling that flickers, color that leans on gravity, one foot unlike the other, healing that drags, skin that quietly changes. A handful of unrelated little annoyances, but they aren't separate things. They're one thing seen from many angles. They're all the same quiet story. Blood reaching the feet a little less easily than it used to. Once I saw that, the feet stopped feeling like a random collection of small complaints. They started to feel like a messenger, the most honest messenger the body has, because the feet are the farthest point. They're the last stop on a very long journey. And if anything is making that journey harder, the feet feel it first, long before anywhere else does. That was the realization that changed how I saw all of it. And the feet aren't the problem, they're the early warning. And now I want to be really honest with you, because this is the part that matters most. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you what's happening inside your body, and I wouldn't try. Poor circulation can have many causes. Some of them are gentle and simple, some of them are worth taking seriously. So if your feet are telling you these things and they keep telling you, please don't just listen to me. Bring it to someone who can actually look, a doctor, a nurse, someone you trust with these things. Noticing early isn't about worrying, it's about giving yourself the chance to ask the question while it's still a small one. That's the whole point of paying attention, not fear, just a head start. Now, there's also a gentler side to this, because our homes play a quiet part in how our feet feel. And most of it we never think about. Think about how we spend our evenings. We sit for a long time, often in one position, and we tuck a foot under us, we cross our legs, we settle in and stop moving. And the feet at the very end of us feel that stillness the most. Stillness slows the flow, movement helps it. It really is that simple. The body moves blood back up from the feet, partly through motion. Every step, every flex of the ankle gives it a small push. So when we go completely still for hours, the feet lose their helper. And I started doing something small about that. Nothing dramatic, nothing that looks like exercise. Every so often in the evening, I just move my feet. I circle my ankles a few times slowly. I point my toes, then pull them back. I press my feet flat into the floor and lift my heels a few gentle times. If I've been sitting a long while, I stand up. I walk to another room just to give my feet a reason to move, and I keep them warm, not scorching, just comfortably warm. Warm socks in the evening, a warm floor if I can, feet that aren't left to sit cold for hours. None of this is treatment. I want to be clear about that. And it's just kindness to the parts of us that carry us all day and ask for so little back, because that's really what our feet do. They hold us up, they take us everywhere, and they almost never complain. So when they finally do, in their small, quiet way, it's worth listening, not with worry, with attention. Cold feet in a warm room, feet that take too long to warm, tingling that comes too easily, color that changes with gravity. None of these are things to fear. They're just the body speaking softly from the place that's furthest away. And all it's really asking is that we notice. So tonight, before you settle in, take a moment with your feet, warm them, move them, look at them just for a second. And if they've been trying to tell you something, let this be the evening you finally listen. Not because anything is wrong, but because the parts of us that speak the quietest are usually the ones worth hearing first.